Shalom, everyone. Welcome to StudyMoon.com. This is the 49th day of counting of the Omer, and today is Shabbat. And we have, Paul is still awake on the other side of the world. Paul's going to do the opening prayer.
Father, I thank you. I thank you for people that, even in the area I am, Gary, Barry, and others that are in this area, that are starting to come out of the woodwork a little and share, and so we learn more about each other. Willing to do their part, willing to do my part, willing to learn the ways of you for this planet. And I thank you for this day, and for the day that I'm now in on the other side of the world, that is Shavuot. And I thank you. Bless us, honor us as we lift you high, so that we may be drawn to you and other men too. In the name of Jehovah, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Paul. And again, I want to thank Sombra for doing the opening prayers, and Rebecca for organizing the music, and Lori Dawn for doing the music today, and Randy just helping to coordinate everything with me in the background. It takes a team to make this come together so that I don't get burnt out. And I want to thank you all for doing your part. And we have other people who are ready to step in and help later on. So I appreciate all of you doing that. And I wanted to say thank you once again. If I don't say thank you enough, well, I do appreciate you. And I'm always sad when I see Sombra wrapping up her prayers, because that means I got to talk. So we are going to do something a little bit different today, because this is a special day. Today is the 49th day of counting the Omer. Yes, May 7th, 2022 is the 49th day of counting the Omer. And on this day, in doing the counting, we are going to do the count, and I've got it in the newsletter. Today is the 7th day of the 7th week of 7 weeks. Today is the 49th day of the counting of 50 days from the day of the waving of the Omer on the morrow after the Sabbath. Today is 7 Sabbaths of 7 Sabbaths. Today completes the 7th week of 7 weeks. So we tradition, and this is tradition. This is not a commandment that you have to do this. This is a tradition. So traditionally, we read Psalm 67, because in Hebrew, it has 49 words. Elam does favor us and bless us, cause his face to shine upon us, Selah. For your way to be known on earth, your deliverance among all nations. Let the peoples praise you, O Elam. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you judge the peoples uprightly and lead the nations on earth, Selah. Let the peoples praise you, O Elam. Let all the peoples praise you. The earth shall give her increase. Elam, our own Elam, blesses us. Elam blesses us, and all the ends of the earth fear him. And the traditional psalm for today is Psalm 138, verses 1 to 8. I give you thanks with all my heart. Before the mighty ones, I sing praise to you. I bow myself toward your set apart Hikal, I believe that is, and give thanks to your name for your loving commitment and for your truth. For you have made great your word, your name above all. On the day I called, you did answer me. You made me bold with strength in my being. Let all the sovereigns of the earth give thanks to you, O Jehovah, when they shall hear the words of your mouth, and let them sing of the ways of Jehovah, for great is the esteem of Jehovah. Though Jehovah is exalted, he looks on the humble, but the proud he perceives from a distance. Though I walk in the midst of distress, you revive me. You stretch out my hand against the wrath of my enemies, and your right hand saves me. Jehovah does perfect for me, O Jehovah. Your loving commitment is everlasting. Do not forsake the works of your hands. And I've found, or I'm seeing a pattern that the Psalms that David is saying, or the Psalms that the sages have chosen to cite or recite during the 49 days or 50 days, seem to be prophetic in a way, because there's a lot of stuff going on that relate to the Psalm that I'm reading it, not all the time, but a lot of times for that year. So this is the 27th year of the counting of the Omer, the 27th year of the Jubilee cycle. And the counting of the Omer is an annual reminder to remind you where you are in the Jubilee cycle count, because most people forget that. So that's my little sermon for this morning. Oh, I got another one. Just in case you thought I was done early. No, we are going to, and this is in the newsletter, but today is the day. So we're going to read what happened today. Do we have any readers, Randy? Who's our first reader?
Baljeet starting us off.
Baljeet, we're going to start off with Exodus 19. Exodus 19. We're not going to do the Torah portion right away. We're going to do this other section first, and we'll come back to the Torah portion after if we got time.
You're still
Baljeet,
muted.
you're muted.
Okay,
Yeah.
what verse do I start from?
19 verse 1. And I'm going to interrupt you a bunch of times here. So
Okay, I'm reading from New King James Version. In the 3rd month after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, for they had departed from Rephidim, had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. And Moses went up to Jehovah, and Jehovah called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the children of Israel."
okay,
you
so
have
hang on. So I want you to get the picture now. It's the 3rd month, the first day of the 3rd month, and Jehovah has now called Moses up the mountain. Randy and I have walked up that mountain. The weather in Pakistan was 49 degrees this past week, the hottest anywhere on earth. Pakistan is just a 2 stones throw away from Saudi Arabia. And Mount Sinai is a little bit further west, but it's on the same latitude. That was today or this past week. I'm just telling you how hot it can get there. And this is the time of year when they're there right now. I'm not saying it was hot because it doesn't mention it here, but I'm just pointing that out. This is the 3 days leading up. So I'm saying, from my understanding, this is the first day of the 3rd month. They've just arrived and now Moses goes up. Maybe it's the 2nd day, okay? So 2nd day of the 3rd month. And now Baljeet and Jehovah tells Moses, this is the proposal I'm going to propose to Israel. Jehovah is now down on his knee, proposing to his bride. I'm just trying to get this picture in your brain a little bit. Proposing to Israel through Moses. Okay, Baljeet, verse 4.
You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth of mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and holy nations. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So Moses
Okay. So now that's what he said to Moses. Moses now goes down the mountain and he calls the elders. Okay, so that, for me, it was an 8-hour climb just to get up the mountain, and it's about a 4-hour descent off the mountain. Longest day. So and Moses is 80. I'm 64. So I'm trying to get you to picture this and understand what's going on here. Okay, verse 6, Beljeet. No, I'm sorry, verse 7.
So Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all those words which Jehovah commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, all that Jehovah has spoken, we will do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to Jehovah, and
Okay, so hang on.
Jehovah said,
So Moses has gone down. He's talked to the elders, and they've talked to the people. So from the first day, this is still early. Now he's gone back up and said, okay, Jehovah, they've agreed. Okay, that's another big climb back up. Okay. Beljeet, verse 9.
and Jehovah said to Moses, behold, I come to you in the thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. Then Jehovah said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and let them be ready for the third day. For in the third day, Jehovah will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourself that you do not go up to the mountain and touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow, whether man or breast or beast. He shall not live when the trumpet sounds long, that shall come near the mountain.
Okay. So now this is still the first day. I put in the newsletter this week a chart from TorahCalendar.com showing you that the first day was, I believe, a Wednesday. Maybe I can pop it up here real quick and show you. There we go. Okay, share screen. So this is the year 1379 BC. 1379 BC. This is a Wednesday. This is May 20th in that year. And this is Jehovah talking to Moses. In 3 days' time, I will appear to you. So you can debate whether that's the first or the second. And on the third day, so 1, 2, 3, it's on Shabbat. It's the 49th day. Now, Torah calendar starts their counting of the Omer from the after the 16th of Nisan. So you don't really go by their count. But just be aware that the Saturday is here in the right on the blue. And that's when Jehovah is about to appear to all of Israel. Okay, so this is huge. This is huge. Just imagine the creator of the universe appearing to you. Okay, so it was a big deal for me to go to Mount Sinai this year. It was huge. And I know that Jehovah wasn't there in presence, but for me, it was just huge. And let's see. So Moses went down, verse 14, Baljeet.
So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not come near your wives. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with Jehovah, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke because Jehovah descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. Then Jehovah came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Jehovah called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up.
Okay, hold it there. So a lot of people confuse the blasting of the trumpets with the last trump, with the Feast of Trumpets when the Messiah is coming. Here you have trumpets blasting to announce the arrival of the king. Just imagine the Queen Elizabeth and the coronation ceremony that she does or did in 1953, I believe it is, and the trumpeters announcing her arrival. The blast of the trumpets, they get that tradition from here. When you announce the king, when you announce the arrival of the king, the trumpets are blasting. That's what Jehovah is doing. The trumpeters are blasting, announcing his arrival. This is huge. Those trumpeters aren't people blowing horns. These are angels in heaven blasting a trumpet that no one can deny. This is a big deal. And Jehovah is putting on all the splendor to make this proposal to us. We've agreed that, yes, if you ask, we will do it. We will. So we've agreed to this. Now the day has come that he's coming to do it. Okay, verse, oh yeah, so Moses, poor Moses, he had to go back up the mountain. And he gets up there, and verse 21.
And Jehovah said to Moses, go down and warn the people, lest they break through to gaze at Jehovah, and many of them perish. Also, let the priests who come near Jehovah consecrate themselves, lest Jehovah break out against them. But Moses said to Jehovah, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, set a bounce around the mountain and consecrate it. Then Jehovah said to him, away, get down and then come up, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to Jehovah, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them.
So Randy and I climbed to the top of this mountain. And okay, so I bailed out 300 feet from the top. I'd achieved my goal. But if I told Randy, go down and get my camera, I forgot my camera, go back down and get my camera, I think Randy would have developed a whole new language. And Moses is arguing with God. The people aren't going to break through. You're wrong. Okay, so this verse is funny to me now. This has all taken place on Shabbat. Moses has climbed up the mountain on Shabbat. Jehovah has come down on Shabbat. This is the 49th day. Now, here's the proposal. Who has got verse to chapter 20?
Before we go on, can we clarify, Yolanda's asking, what's the purpose of keep the men staying away from their wives?
Well, when you have an emission of semen, you are unclean until evening. He wanted everyone to be clean and pure. Nothing wrong with sex, but you are unclean until evening. So that would be it, unless there's something else I'm not aware of. Okay, chapter 20. Sombra.
I have a contention with your statement that it all happened on one day.
We're not all one day. There's more yet to come.
Okay, but you're saying that he has to go up and down the mountain more than once in a day.
Yep.
And the way I read this, yes, it's talking from the first day of the month of Sivan, but Shavuot doesn't happen until the 6th, 7th, or 8th of Sivan. Tomorrow will be the 6th of Sivan on our calendar tomorrow.
Yep.
And so,
Okay, so hang on. On the calendar that we showed you here, in 1379, the 5th of Sivan is Shavuot.
yes, you're right.
Okay.
So somewhere around that time period, it could be the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th of Sivan is the day of Shavuot. And so,
Well, not in 1379.
no, not in 1379. Right. It was the 5th. You're right. But so if he goes up the mountain, then we have to count 1, 2, 3 days. So he's kind of got 2 or 3 days in there that he could be going up and down this mountain.
That's what I said. They arrived in the wilderness of sin on the 1st of the 3rd month. He either went up that mount on that day or he went up that mount on the 2nd. We can debate that and argue that. Then he's told on either the 1st or the 2nd in 3 days' time. So is that after
Okay.
3 days or is that in 3 days? So one is the 2nd, 2 would be the 3rd, and the 3rd day would be the 4th.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see it now. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
contention gone?
Contention gone. Yeah. No, but
Okay.
if we don't hash out these things,
No, it's good. That's why, that's why we have the midrash. That's why we do this.
yeah.
That's why you are allowed to ask questions on the spot here.
Okay. So Yolanda's still asking
Okay,
the
that's
question.
done asking questions, no more.
No, but Yolanda's asking a question about why is
Oh.
it 3 days? Okay. So that first day, so a man is unclean from the time he has his emission of semen until the next evening he's unclean. And so he would have to reserve himself so that he's clean on the 3rd, so that he can enter into Shabbat on the 4th, so that he can enter into the wedding feast on the 5th, because the wedding feast or the betrothal feast is on the 5th according to this calendar. Does that
Yes.
make sense, Yolanda? Or Hope? Sorry.
Okay, I haven't been reading the chat, so thank you guys
Yeah.
for keeping up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are on today. We are talking today is the memorial of what's going on today. So today we are talking about, this is the events that took place today. In the past, I have thought these events that we're about to read took place tomorrow. I've been wrong. We're going to find out why. So you may be thinking I'm on the wrong day right now. That's okay. I hope to convince you otherwise here in a few minutes. So chapter 20. So this is the proposal from Jehovah. Jehovah himself is going to speak these words. 2 million plus people are going to hear them. Okay. Who has got chapter 20?
Brother Paul.
Oh, I just muted Paul. Sorry, Paul.
Yes, let's try that again. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Jehovah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness, and that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Jehovah, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commandments. You do not bring the name of Jehovah, your Elohim, to naught, for Jehovah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. The 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Jehovah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house. You do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor male servant, nor female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunderings and lightnings and flashes, the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking, and the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. And Moshe said to the people, Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, and in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. And Jehovah said to Moshe, Say this to the children of Israel, You yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from the heavens. You do not make beside me mighty ones of silver, and you do not make mighty ones of gold for yourself. Make a slaughter place of earth for me, and you shall slaughter on it ascending offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and cattle, in every place where I cause my name to be remembered. I shall come to you and bless you. And if you make me a slaughter place of stone, do not build it of cut stone, for if you use a chisel on it, you have profaned it. Nor do you go up by steps to my slaughter place, lest your nakedness be exposed on it.
So I just want to point out here, Jehovah is speaking to the people with his own voice. This is the contract. And then he says, You've heard my voice. Do not make me idols of gold and silver. The very first thing he says. Then he tells them how to build an altar. Second thing he says. I just want to point those things out because they're going to be coming up here in a very few chapters. Not that we're going to get them today, but within 40 days, they've already sinned. They've already broken these first two things. So now, these are the overall commandments. Sombra, you got your hand up, or is that from before?
No, that's now. Back in chapter 19, at the end, when they were told not to come up the mountain, Moses says, "But I already told them they're not allowed to come up to the mountain." There's a parallel there with these young couples who they're about to get married. Instead of waiting till after the wedding day, the wedding feast, they go, "Oh, well, we're going to get married, so we might as well have sex now. We're going to be married." No, there's a delineation. You can't do it before, you have to wait until after. But it's that same thing. They're not only are they not allowed to approach each other, within their marriages, but they're also not allowed to approach Jehovah. There is an appointed time when things are appropriate, and there is an appointed times when things are not appropriate. And before the wedding, it is not appropriate for us to approach a holy God. If we are not betrothed to him, it's not appropriate for us to approach a holy God and enter into his presence.
Even after the betrothal. Because so in the
Yeah.
newsletter this week, I'm showing you little bits and pieces about how what Somber just said is dead on. This is an engagement. This is not an open invitation to sexual relationships. That takes place on the 8th day after the wedding. Now, I know some people are going to have a hard time thinking God having a sexual relationship with Israel. Okay, don't go there.
But that's what the consummation of the bride is,
Yes, which is the 8th day.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to talk too much about the 8th day today. That's coming up at the end of Sukkot, and it's the one day that nobody ever talks about. It's the most important holy day of all the holy day, and it's only got 2 verses in the Bible talking about it. And yet it's the most important one.
Can we talk too? You use the word engagement, and there's a difference between the word engagement and the word betrothal. And the word engagement is exactly this. What happens in chapter 19 is he says he's going to propose. And in our North American culture, we say the words, "I want to marry you." And then the girl gets a ring and whatever. But a betrothal is different. Betrothal actually has vows. And the purpose for a betrothal is it is the opportunity to practice living out those vows before the consummation so that you can decide whether or not you can live according to those vows. We don't have that in North America. When you get engaged, it's just, it's romance. It's all about feeling. It's not about, okay, I want to marry you, but I want you to understand that in this marriage, I'm going to have expectations of you. Are you willing to live up to those expectations? That never happens when a guy goes down on his knee and hands her a ring. And I also think it's really interesting too, in North America, how many young brides are willing to say the words that they'll obey? But in chapter 19, it also said to God says, if you will obey these words, if you will obey my commandments, if we're not even willing to obey within our physical human marriages, how much more are we not going to obey a holy God? You have to understand, in our culture is so wrong because we've so rejected God. Our culture has taken on these ungodly things, including things like, well, I'm not going to say obey to my husband when I marry him.
Okay, now before we get off on some other subject, let's get back to the one we're talking about today. Thank you, Sombra. So now, he's given us the overall contract, the overall proposal. Here, but in a Katuba, which is the marriage contract, these are the things in the contract that I will do for you. These are the things you are going to do for me. It's a contract. It's a two-way. I want this. You give me that. I give you this. These are the things. It's all written down. Now in chapter 21, we begin to read the details. And the very first thing that's pointed out in chapter 21 is And this is the very first time that we are told in the entire Bible about the sabbatical years. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, we're going to read the details of our contract. Who's got chapter 21?
This is Scott. I've got it.
Okay.
All right. Now these are the judgments which you shall set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free and pay nothing. If he comes in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And if a man sells his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she does not please her master, who has betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed, and he shall have no right to sell her to a foreign person, since he has dealt deceitfully with her. And if he has betrothed her to his son, he shall deal with her according to the custom of daughters. If he takes another wife, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, and her marriage rights. And if he does not do these 3 for her, then she shall go out free without paying money. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait, but God delivered him into his hand, then I will appoint you a place where he may flee. But if a man acts with premeditation against his neighbor to kill him with guile, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. And he who strikes his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. If men contend with each other, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, but he does not die, but is confined to his bed, if he rises again and walks about outside with his staff, then he who struck him shall be acquitted. He shall only pay for the loss of his time, and shall provide for him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man beats his servant or his maidservant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or 2, he shall not be punished, for he is his property. If men fight and hurt a woman with child, so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no lasting harm follows, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if any lasting harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man strikes the eye of his servant or the eye of his maidservant and destroys it, he shall let him go free for the sake of his eye. And if he knocks out his servant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for the sake of his tooth. And if an ox gores a man or a woman to death, then the ox shall surely be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be acquitted. But if the ox tended to thrust with its horn in past times, and it has not been made known to his owner, and he has not kept it confined, so that it has killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. If there is any imposed on him a sum of money, then he shall pay to redeem his life whatever is imposed on him. Whether it has gored a son or gored a daughter, according to this judgment, it shall be done to him. If the ox gores a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man opens a pit or if a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls in it, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and shall give money to their owner, but the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurts another's, so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money from it, and the dead ox they shall also divide. Or if it was known that the ox tended to thrust in time past, and its owner has not kept it confined, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead beast shall be his own.
Thank you, Sean, or Scott, I mean. So that's some of the details. Now we're going to continue on in verse 20 or chapter 22. There are more details here. And, I'll stop and think. This is a marriage proposal. Marriage proposal to Jehovah. We always just think the 10 Commandments. Nobody ever reads chapter 21 and 22. What are we being told here? What are we being told here? Who's got chapter 22?
I do. Ella.
Ella, go ahead.
If a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. If the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. If a man shall cause a field or a vineyard to be eaten, and shall put it in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field of the best of his own field, and of the best of his own vineyard, shall he make restitution. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindleth the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox or for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any manner of lost thing, which another challengeth to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. If a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep, and it die, or be hurt or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of the Lord be between them both, that he has not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for witness, and he shall not make good that which was torn. And if a man borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. Then shall you not suffer a witch to you shall not suffer a witch to live. Whosoever lieth with a beast shall surely be put to death. He that sacrificeth unto any god save unto Jehovah only, he shall be utterly destroyed. You shall not vex a stranger nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You should not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry. And my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with a sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, you should not be to him as a usurer, neither shall you lay upon him usury. If you at all take your neighbor's raiment to pledge, you shall deliver it unto him by the time the sun goes down. For that is his covering only. It is his raiment for his skin. Wherein shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass, when he cries unto me, that I will hear, for I am gracious. You should not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of your people. You should not delay to offer the first of any ripe fruits, and of your liquors. The firstborn of your sons shall you give unto me. Likewise shall you do with your oxen, with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. And you shall be holy men unto me. Neither shall you eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs.
Thank you, Ella.
Mhm.
Now, what Scott has just read, what Ella's just read, we could spend months studying different sections of this. We're not going to do that today. I would love to do that, but we're not going to do it today. I just want to point out verse 29. There's a lot of things I like to point out. I want to point out verse 29, what Ella just read. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe produce and juices. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. You shall not delay to offer your first fruits offerings to me. That means you can't cut it and store it and wait till first fruits day. When you do that, you're admitting that you got the day wrong when first fruits began. And I'm pointing that out because there's a controversy. We've had this controversy for the past number of years. When is first fruits? So there's another one here, verse 30. Likewise, you shall do with your oxen and your sheep. It shall be with its mother 7 days, and on the 8th day you shall give it to me. Okay, so look at that verse. On the 8th day you give it to Jehovah. When is first fruits? It's on the 8th day. When is the first fruits of Shavuot? It's on the 8th day. That's when you give it to Jehovah. What is this representing? It's connecting, it's telling you to look at the 8th day feast when everything will be returned and given to Jehovah. You're getting these little clues here all along, right from the very beginning. You know, verse chapter 21 about a man serving for 6 years and being set free on the 7th year. That's a sabbatical cycle. Where is this coming from? Well, they already know about it. Okay. Now we're going to go into chapter 23. This is still the details of the contract of the Katuba between Jehovah and the people of Israel. This is all being explained to the people of Israel on Shabbat, the 49th day today, the 7th day. The 8th day is tomorrow. Again, here we go with another 8th day symbolism here kicking in. Chapter 23.
That'd be me. You should not raise a false report. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. It's all right.
You shall not raise a false report. Do not put your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. You shall not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shall you speak in a cause in order to follow many in order to wrest judgment. And you should not favor a poor man in his cause. If you meet your enemy's ox or his ass going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again. If you see the ass of him who hates you lying under his burden and would hold back from helping him, you shall surely help him. You shall not pervert the judgment of your poor in his cause. Keep far from a false matter and do not kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. And you shall take no bribe, for the bribe blinds the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Also, you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, since you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And you shall sow your land 6 years, and shall gather it in the fruits of it. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and let it alone, so that the poor of your people may eat. And what they leave, the animals of the field shall eat. In the same way you shall deal with your vineyard and your olive yard. You shall do your work 6 days, and on the seventh day you shall rest, so that your ox and your ass may rest, and the son of your handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. And be watchful in all that I have said to you, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of your mouth. You shall keep a feast to me 3 times in a year. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat the unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt, and no one shall appear before me empty. Also the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field. Also the feast of ingathering, in the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in a year all your males shall appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land shall bring into the house of Jehovah your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and bring you in the place which I have prepared. Be on guard before him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you shall indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. For my angel shall go before you and bring you into the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. You shall not bow down to their gods nor serve them, and you shall not do according to their works, but you shall surely pull them down, and surely you shall smash their images. And you shall serve Jehovah your God, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. Nothing shall cast their young, nor be barren in your land. The number of your days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before you, and I will destroy all the people to whom you shall come, and I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite and the Canaanite and the Hittite before you. I will drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become a waste and the beast of the field multiply against you. By little and little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and inherited the land. And I will stretch your bounds from the Red Sea, even to the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert to the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them or their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it surely will be a snare to you.
So we've had chapter 21, 22. Here's what I want you to do. And chapter 23, here's what I will do for you. Not all of chapter 23, but yeah.
Joseph,
Just 1 second, Paul. I
Yep.
want to point out verse 25. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water. Now we have a famine growing here around the world right now. And I will bless your bread, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. And we've just gone through 2 years of COVID around the world. Does anyone read this verse in your Katuba, in your marriage contract, and say, Paul, go ahead.
same chapter, first couple of verses. Do not bring a false report. Do not put your hand with a wrong to be malicious witness. Do not follow a crowd to do evil, nor bear witness. And just looking at some of that, it's looking as if do not follow a crowd. A crowd Who? A government who wants to be
Not a
part of
government, a protest.
well, not so much a protest, but a government who is inviting people to speak on their behalf, to invite people into their crowd.
No,
vote
you
for
have elected leaders that Jehovah told you to elect.
Yeah.
Get your captains and people in front of you and put judges. So that's a government source.
Yeah. I understand that, but it's also do not bring a false report. But if the government brings a false report, how do we react to that?
You hold them accountable.
Hold them accountable. Okay. I understand.
So you have to do it. You also have to, you put them there. Jehovah's also given you the people that you deserve.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
understand.
all these different things you can do about that. But what you just point out here, you shall not follow a crowd.
Mm,
That is a direct opposition to one of the commandments of the 613 laws. That people say we're supposed to keep all 613 laws. That is poppycock. The 613 laws that people talk about is an invention of the rabbis. Now, we used to have here on sightedmoon.com all 613 laws, where I went through each and every law and I showed you this one is a duplicate. This one is directly opposite to the law of Jehovah. Those 613 laws are not mentioned here at all in this Katuba.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So don't be following the 613 laws. Follow the 10 commandments. Follow the commandments that you find here in the Torah, in the Katuba.
Okay. Okay. Here. Thank you.
They're here.
Yes.
Okay, so the rabbis have created something. It's not kosher. Follow the majority, it says. I get this one every year. I got that one again this year. I'm supposed to follow the majority. I'm not allowed to stand up and claim the barley of Aviv because I'm a minority. I'm certainly allowed to differ from the Karaites. That makes me an even more of a minority.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you. Yeah. Thank you.
Sombra.
Thank you.
Well, just what you were saying there again about there's only 10 words, 10 commandments. As we were reading through Exodus 22, I was starting to see the pattern emerge, that the pattern in 22 is the same pattern that we see in 20. Now, I haven't got it completely solidified because we were going through it quickly, but what I saw when we did it was verse 6, if fire breaks out and catches in thorns. Okay, so fire breaks out. We're not supposed to set a fire on Shabbat. And that never made any sense to me. Why are we not supposed to light a fire on Shabbat?
Are you talking about Ba'ar again? Ba'ar?
No.
Is this not what we talked about Ba'ar the other
No,
day?
no bar. Okay.
Because that also was lighting a fire on thorns.
Yes. Well, but that's exactly where I'm going to. So this paragraph in verse 6 is the same thing as not lighting a fire on Shabbat. So it parallels in verse 20 when it says in verse 8, remember the Sabbath day, which is the fourth commandment, right? Well, if you look before.
Hey, whoa, slow down. You're talking Exodus 22, verse 6 is parallel with what?
With the fourth commandment, to obey the Sabbath.
Chapter 20, verse 8. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then if you look at the verse in front of that, verse 5, if a man causes a field or a vineyard to be grazed over, let his beast be loose and feeds on another man's field. That's a parallel also to the third commandment, that you should have no other gods. If it's not your field, it's not your field. Don't let your cow graze in it. If it's not your God, don't go in and talk to that God. Have no other gods, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Do I hear a sermon coming out here?
Well, I don't know. Then if you go to verse 7 and that whole paragraph, that's about honor. Honor your mother and father. And then verse 10 is talking about like the beasts that you borrow, or your neighbor's beast, if it dies, well, and you have to be honorable. If the beast dies while it's under your responsibility, then you're responsible for it. You're responsible for that animal's death. That's talking about murder. See what I'm saying? Like, they're not extra commandments. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Be responsible and don't be responsible for the death of something else. Then the next one, verse 14, if a man borrows anything or is injured and he dies. So it's about being faithful with what you borrow, faithful with what you've received from your neighbor. And then there's verse 16, if a man seduces his a virgin who is betrothed, that's somebody else's bride. And this guy comes along and steals the bride. Anyhow, I think you're exactly right. They're not extra commandments. They're the exact same principle, just discussed in a different way, just illuminated in a different way. And it's kind of like what Yeshua did in, was it the Sermon on the Mount, when he's also illuminating the commandments? He's not doing away with the commandments, he's illuminating the commandments. He's showing us how to live them out. Sorry, I'll be quiet now.
No, don't be sorry. No, that's exactly why we're doing this, because everyone reads the 10 and then they pick out the ones they want to keep. They don't keep reading here. This is the proposal from Jehovah. This is the marriage contract that he is proposing. Here's what I want you to do. And we just read, I'm going to drive out all these people. I'm going to give you all this land. That's what he's going to do for us. This is the contract. Beljeet.
I just wanted to know what your title is for your 6,613 laws, and where do I find it?
I will have to look for it. I don't know where it is. We do have 613 laws up on the website. If you go in the archives, I've let them go, but there's another one somewhere that's more detailed, and I forget where it is.
I have the 630 laws, but I just wanted to look at your teaching on that, what you taught about that, and I just want to know the title of your teaching so I can find it.
I went through all 613 laws over, I think I did 7 laws per week. So 613 divided by 7 over however many weeks that was. And that was at the end of the Torah section or Torah portion that I did during a 3.5-year Torah section. So that was starting, I want to say 2013 for 3 years, every week. So they're spread out. You would have to go search for it. I don't think I collected them all in one spot.
Okay, we'll see if I can find it. Thank you.
I'll take a look and I'll see if I can find out where to start you at. But you might have to remind me.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions thus far or insights? Okay, chapter 24. And I'll read this. Now, he said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders, and worship from afar. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him. So Moses came up and told the people. So now, right, verse 3, Moses came up and told the people. Shabbat, the 49th day, today. All the words of the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all of us together, I want you all to say this together. All the words which Jehovah has said, we will do.
All the words which Jehovah has said, we will do.
And Moses wrote all the words that we just read. He wrote them and rose up early in the morning, that's tomorrow morning, and built an altar at the foot of the mountain. Jehovah had already told him how to build an altar. And 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings. Why are they not doing sin offerings? Because they haven't sinned yet. They're not under the Katuba yet. They've agreed to it. It's not yet ratified. It's not yet complete. The signature on the bottom line is not yet complete. All the words which Jehovah has said we will do. Okay, we agreed to this. We agreed to what's written. Or what? No, we agreed to what's spoken. This is only spoken thus far. What's the problem with a spoken contract?
There's no witness.
No, there's 3 million witnesses. What's the problem with a spoken contract?
There's no witness for perpetuity.
It's invalid because it hadn't been signed. It's not in writing.
Well, okay, but there's no place to go back to and say, what did we agree to again? You don't have, we can disagree about, 2 years down the road, what did you say to me on that day? Well, I said this. No, you said that. No, I said this.
It's a record.
Perpetuity.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's a record of
we
what was
have,
said.
so Moses, and Moses took half the blood. I missed my part here.
Verse 6. Verse 6.
Verse 6. No, where did Moses write all these words in the book? Oh,
You
verse
said
7.
Okay.
No, that's verse 7.
Verse 4.
Verse 4.
And
Verse 4.
Moses wrote, Moses wrote all the words of the Lord. So now we got something written. And he rose up early. So this all takes, so Moses stays up all night. He writes down everything we just read. So it would take me, I don't know, if I was to copy this word for word, starting in chapter 20, I could probably do it in a couple hours on a typewriter, we know, with word perfect and spell grammar, and then Lori Dawn checking my spelling afterwards. And, a couple hours. So if Moses had to do it on a sheepskin or just on papyrus, let's say, and spelling errors, let's say it took him 4 hours. Okay. Then he set young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings because they have not sinned yet.
A peace offering is also, the word peace, shalom, means to destroy the authority of chaos. In other words, you're no longer under the authority of chaos, you're under the authority of Jehovah at this point. That's what a peace offering is about.
Okay, so if we look up peace offerings, they are free will offerings. They are something that you want to give. It's I want to give this ring. I want to give this. I want to take you out and buy you supper. It's something that you do. It's something not that you have to do it.
God can't force us into servitude. We can only voluntarily choose to submit to his mastery.
Okay. And Moses took half the blood from these peace offerings and he put it in basins. Half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Again, that's significant of prophet, of he's prophesying is what he's doing. Now we're going to talk about that. I think I've already talked about it in the newsletter a couple months ago. It's going to be in the book 2 of our series that's coming up here. And yes, I've started working on editing again. The sprinkling of the blood on the altar goes into Zechariah, where these people who are breaking the covenant are going to have their blood, their own personal blood, up to the horse's bridle, splashed against the sides of the altar. So this covenant that they're making right now is a blood covenant. Right here, the blood being sprinkled on the people and the blood being sprinkled on the book and the rest of the blood sprinkled on the altar. So here's what happens if you don't obey this commandment. Your blood will be splashed against this altar. And Moses took half the blood and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of all the people, which was just what we've just done. And they said, all the Lord has said, we will do, and be obedient. So they heard his voice, they agreed. Moses read it again, they agreed. Now they've got it in the book. Did he read it a third time? Maybe. They agreed. And Moses took the blood after they've agreed. He took the blood from the peace offering and sprinkled it on the people and said, this is the blood of the covenant. It's a blood covenant, which the Lord has made with you according to these words. If Jehovah does not drive out all these people and give you that land, then you can kill Jehovah. If, on the other hand, you do not keep all the words of this covenant, he has the right to kill you. This sets up the whole Passover scenario later when Jehovah gives his life for you. He loves you that much that he's willing to lay down his own life with you. Not send some substitute son-in-law for you. He's sending himself to pay the price that you should have paid. This is huge. When you understand the magnitude of this, my Creator, who came down and made this contract with me, loved me enough that he gave his life for me to pay the penalty that I should have paid with my own blood. It's stunning. Then Moses went up, and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders. So what I've just read to you here, this is taking place tomorrow. This is Shavuot. This is the calm. This is the supper with the in-laws. Going and announcing, okay, we've made this covenant. We've agreed to getting married. Now we're coming to have a meal with you. Then Moses went up, and also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders. And they saw the God of Israel. They saw Jehovah. And there was under his feet, as it were, paved work of sapphire stone. And it was like the very heavens in clarity. But on the nobles of the children of Israel, he did not lay his hand. So they saw God, and they ate and drank. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and be there, and I will give you the tablets of stone and the law and the commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. Not only do we have Jehovah speaking and 2 million plus people hearing him, we have Moses writing it into a book, and all the people agreeing to it. Now Jehovah himself is going to take the stones and write this in stone so that they will have his version of these things as well. And Moses rose with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up onto the mountain. And he said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Indeed, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has a difficulty, let him come to them, go to them. Then Moses went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. Now the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. So from the first day that it came down, today, tomorrow, 6 days. Now I thought I counted that out to be next Sabbath. And in the seventh day, he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. So Moses went up on the seventh day. And so again, we got this 7-day thing going on with the 8th day kicking in. The sight of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountains in the eyes of the children of Israel. So Moses went into the midst of the cloud and went up into the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. That's what today is all about. Today is the proposal. Israel accepted it. Tomorrow is the banquet meal with the 70 elders up on the mountain with Jehovah on Shavuot. It's a big deal. It's an amazing deal. The trumpets blowing are announcing Jehovah is coming on Pentecost, on Shavuot, not the Feast of Trumpets. That's something entirely different. That's a war cry. This 8th day, this day that we are keeping is so significant when you understand it. Most people just count to 50 and go to sleep. They don't even know how they got to the 50th because the Catholic Church said it was on the 50th day, starting, from the 3rd Sunday after the full moon, after the equinox. They have no clue, but you do. So that's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to go through this part today because it's important. This is our anniversary. This is our anniversary with Jehovah of the marriage contract that he made with us, that he proposed to us on this day. Philemon.
Yes, Brother Joseph. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hello?
Shabbat Shalom, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Just right where you are, as we celebrate Shavuot, we find that Moses took 40 days and 40 nights up the hill. And on the other side, when we come to the New Testament, we find Yeshua also taking 40 days and 40 nights. Is there a relationship between the numbers of 40s or the relationship between these two different occasions?
Yes.
Or is it symbolic in a way?
Yes. They are related. So it's actually 46 days after Shavuot. We just read the cloud was on the mountain for 6 days, so 46 days after Shavuot. So if we take the calendar, we are in the 3rd month, and it's the 5th day, so that's 6 days. That brings you to the 11th, and you add on there 30 days, brings you to the 11th of the 4th month, and then 10 more days will bring you to the 21st of the I said 3rd month, 4th month, 21st of the 4th month. So on the 24th or 21st of the 4th month, Moses comes down off the mountain. And what does he see? The golden altar.
Okay, Joe.
What? Did I just lose everybody?
Now you're going too fast. Where are these dates coming from?
Okay, we just read the cloud was on the mountain for 6 days. At the end of the 6 days. Okay, let me pull up my chart again.
Just have a quick question. Wouldn't the 40-day count include the time when he got there? Those first 6 days would be part of the 40?
Well, that's not what it says. It says the cloud was on the mountain for 6 days. At the end of the 6 days, Jehovah called Moses up the mountain. We just read that in chapter 24.
I thought verse 15 though says he went unto the mount and a cloud covered. So he was already up there when the cloud covered the mount.
But he was up there with the 70 elders, and they were up there for 6 days. That's starting tomorrow. That brings you to the Friday. right? Then Moses goes up into the cloud at the end of those. So, that's the same as the feast day for 7 days. And at the end of the seventh day, the bride goes up into the cloud to Jehovah, and the marriage is consummated on the 8th day. So Moses goes up in there on the 7th day.
Okay,
Okay.
Joe, back up your calendar a bit.
There.
Just a minute.
So
Okay,
Shavuot is on the 5th.
right?
Moses goes up and they are partying up on the plateau on Mount Sinai for 6 days. Moses
Okay.
goes up into the cloud on the 7th day. Okay, what verse am I looking for? Now the glory of the Lord rested in the Mount Sinai and cloud covered. Verse 16. Now the glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai and the cloud and covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day, he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. The sight of the glory of Jehovah was like a consuming fire. So I'm reading that the party, so this is after the party is up there, the 70 elders. I'm reading
So
that.
that would be the same thing as what we call our, like we go to the church, we have our wedding, we recite our wedding vows, we are proclaimed, you are now husband and wife. And after that, you go to the ballroom and you have your wedding celebrations, the reception. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. So you're saying these 6 days is the reception?
Okay, you can say that reception if you want to go that way.
Okay.
This is also similar to the wedding feast. The wedding feast at Sukkot goes on for 7 days.
7 days, right?
And in the 8th day is the consummation of the wedding. So they are feasting here for 6 days. On the 7th day, Moses is called up. So they are feasting here for 7 days. And Moses goes up on the 7th day into the cloud. And then the 70 elders, they go back down on the 8th day. Stuart.
Did Moses and Joshua go up? Because he told them, tarry here and wait for us till we come back.
Well,
So
Joshua didn't go into the cloud.
No, not Joshua, but Moses. But he said for them to wait for him. Then he went up to the mount, and I just see the count starting from there. And he was there, the cloud covered for 6 days while he was there. Then the 7th day is when he called for him
to go up
out of the midst of the cloud.
So, okay, back up. Then the Lord said to Moses, come up to me. Verse 9, Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 of the elders of Israel. So verse 9, there's 74 people up there having a banquet with Jehovah. This is starting on Shavuot. They go up and they banquet with Jehovah. That's when it starts. Okay, now the cloud came down on Shabbat and descended on the mountain. Now, did the cloud start counting the 6 days from Sabbath, or does it start counting from Shavuot? I'm reading it chronologically as is written. It's written, the 70 are up there, and then that's verse 9, and then in verse 16, now the glory of Jehovah rested on the mount, and the cloud covered it 6 days. Is that starting from this banquet, or does it start from the Sabbath? You can argue that either way.
But I just see the separation of the elders and Moses, who went further on, he went into the mountain. They maybe didn't go up as far. I don't know.
No, the plateau. Okay, so
Yeah.
Randy and I have been on the plateau. The plateau, to get to the plateau, is a climb in itself. So they're there. They're having a banquet. Now we were told there's a couple kids climbed up to the plateau in, I forgot the number. Randy, was it 20 minutes, 2 hours or something like that?
Yes.
Incredibly, yeah, some insane number. It took us pretty close to 6 to 8 hours to get up there. So they got there, they have a banquet with Jehovah. Then it says the cloud covered the mountain 6 days. So I'm taking that 6 days from Shavuot. You want to say it's from Shabbat? You can argue that. I think I'm gonna stick to the 6 days. It works out better with my theology that way. So okay, so these are just little details. You don't have to agree. And then
Yes.
Moses goes up under so from the plateau up to the top of the mountain to Mount Sinai is another climb. Randy, what would it take us? 3 hours?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's right.
another big climb. And I just ran out of gas. I mean, like I was totally done. So yeah, when Moses went up into the cloud, he went to the top where the cloud was, where the earth was turned to black. And that was on the 7th day. So that's, again, the symbolism here is tying into Sukkot, and it's tying into, the 8th day as well. It's all connected. Stuart, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I was reading it the same way Ella was, that Moses was with the elders and then he separated from them. And then we hear that the glory of Jehovah was on Mount Sinai for 6 days. And on the 7th day, he called Moses out. So I read it like Moses separated from the elders and spent 6 full days alone on the mount. And on the 7th day, he spoke with Jehovah.
And I would read it that the count started when he got there at the beginning of those 6 days. Anyway, I mean, I don't want to argue. That's just what I see.
Ella, you're allowed to argue. Just you never win, though. You're just never going to win.
I know that. But it didn't
No.
say, it just said he was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. And he was
Yeah, but
on the mountain at the beginning of when the cloud came down.
But he was up and down the mountain 7 times in total. The staying up in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights starts at the end of the 7th day period when he ascended into the cloud. So
Okay.
getting back to what Philemon was asking me, that 40 days now begins starting on the 12th. The 12th. So you add on, say, 30 days onto that, and I don't have the next calendar here. 30 days onto that will bring you to the 4th month on the 12th. And then you got 10 days more that'll bring you to the 22nd of the 4th month. Okay, so that's just 2 weeks away from the 9th of Av. The 9th of Av is when all disasters seem to be hitting Israel. Could they have started here with the calf? It could be. Okay, I'm speculating now. This is not a thus says the Lord. This is Joe Dumond speculating. Does that answer? I'm not sure if I answered Philemon's question.
Thank you very much.
Shane, Moses climbed it 7 times from what I've counted. I'm missing the 7th. Yeah, I don't know which one it is.
Joe,
Ella.
back at the beginning of chapter 19, in the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt. All right, shouldn't they, because it was Passover when they left, if they're beginning this Omer count, that's 90 days when they got to this point.
No, how do you figure that?
Well, it says this was in the 3rd month when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, when all this started, chapter 19.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll
So
go
that's
back to,
the count, the 50-day count.
okay, so hang on, you've missed something here. So I've got my, which month is this?
Well, it says in the third month when they had left Egypt, and that was the night of Passover.
Okay,
they-
so here's Passover. You see the chart on the screen here?
Yeah, I'm on my phone and I can't pull it up.
Okay, you see,
Yeah, I can kind
okay,
of.
it's actually in the newsletter as well, Ella.
Yeah.
So the 15th is on the Sunday that they left. That's the high holy day. That's the day they left. And
Okay,
you start your count from that Sunday. So Torah calendar, you see the Omer count here in the top right hand corner. They started on the 16th. So that's the way Omer Torah calendar believes it's supposed to go. But we start on the Sunday.
Right.
Sunday is day 1. So there's the first month.
So it's 2 months and 15 days or whatever. Maybe it's just 2 months.
That's right. So
Yeah.
here's the second month, right? I showed you the
Mhm.
second month, and then we come to the third month. Now, there's a space of time here. We're not given exactly when they were at different places. Then we come to the third month, and it says on the first of the third month, they entered the land of Sin or Sinai. So we know that date. That's this
Right.
first of the third month. And then it says, get ready for in the third day, I'm going to meet with you. That's this Sabbath, the 49th day. Now, Torah calendar is counting it as the 48th. We know it's the 49th. That is the events that took place on that day when Jehovah came down on the mountain. And then they ate the meal with Jehovah and consummated the marriage with the meal with Jehovah on Shavuot. That would be the 5th month, the 50th, or the 3rd month, the 5th day, which is the 50th day since Passover.
Okay. Yeah, because it's the middle of the first month that they lived.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I missed. But still,
Yep. Okay.
no problem.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the marriage contract Jehovah made with Israel on this day. Israel was told to take this contract, this Katuba, and bring it to all the rest of the world. It says in Isaiah that the stranger who has joined himself, I don't know what chapter and verse, the stranger who has joined himself to Jehovah is a part of Israel. Anyone, I don't care if you're black, white, red, purple, green, or from Mars, you are part of Israel if you will keep this covenant. It's that simple. If there's one law for the stranger and one law for Israel, it's the same law. Inside that law, there are laws for the high priest, there are laws for the priest, there are laws for the people, there are men and women laws that are different. Yeah, okay, so it's one law for the entire nation. We've just read the laws. The Sabbath is part of that law. The holy days are part of that law. Keep them at the right time is part of that law. The sabbatical years, the Jubilee years are all part of that law. And they teach you what we've just shown you in the calendars, the first day and the 50th day when they left Egypt and when they made the Shavuot or the covenant with Jehovah. These little things that Jehovah planned out to do at certain times, they're hugely significant for you understanding the plan of salvation. Isaiah 56:6. Thank you, James. So why don't we just go read it? Isaiah 56:6. Isaiah 56. Where is Isaiah?
I think it's before Jeremiah, but could be wrong.
I'm trying to find it on my computer here. James, are you able to read this for us?
Page
I can do that.
975.
Go ahead, James.
Mhm. Also, the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him and to love the name of the Lord and to be his servants, everyone who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and holds fast my covenant, even those I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar. For my house will be called a house of prayer for all the people.
So, and says the Lord Jehovah, who gathers the outcasts of Israel, yet I will gather beside him his gathered ones. Anyone. James is here. James is from India.
That's right.
He's
Correct.
not, well, he could be because there were Jews in India, but for just assuming he has no Israeli DNA in him, he is keeping the Sabbath and the holy days, and he is just as much welcome and just as much a part of Israel as anyone else because he's obeying.
But that's also said in Revelation 22:14.
Okay,
Those who
hang on.
obey the covenant will enter the holy city and tend to the trees of life. It's two witnesses, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Can't
Well,
get away from it. 22:14.
There's more than two witnesses because there's other verses say
I
the same thing.
know, but there's more than two witnesses. But here's two that are stating: if
Yep.
you do the commandments, you tend to the trees of life, you're in the holy city. And
If
those are, yes, and if you're not, you're outside the city, and you're not making it.
Yep. So this Katuba is applicable to everyone on earth around the world. I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. I am Jehovah. I change not. So today is a very special day. Today is the anniversary of our proposal. Today is the anniversary that our it sounds sacrilegious when I say it, that Jehovah got down on his knee and proposed to us. But Jehovah came down from heaven onto a mountain and proposed to us. And for me, I don't know. I've never been able to wrap my brain around that. It's just so big. And it's gotten even bigger since going and climbing the mountain. It's just so impressive and so big. And but the holy days tell you his plan. So,
Joe, that's something like why God gave us a helpmate, to help us understand that, because the helpmate is more into the understanding of our proposals. She's looking for the proposal from her future husband. Jehovah is the husband to us, and yet us men can't see that. You said that yourself. Sometimes we're so dumb that,
Ba'ar.
you know, yes.
I didn't say
well,
dumb, I said Ba'ar.
Oh, right, yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. We just, sometimes us blokes are so thick in the skull that we just don't get it. And yet sometimes our women get it, but can't get it across to us properly and help us to get both of us going sort of together. I don't know. Somewhere in there, it's an analogy. It's there for us to see.
Yeah, it's there. And again, so that's why we go over this, yearly. It sounds like repetition. And we're going to do something different tomorrow. So I think instead of going to the Torah portion, I'm going to just launch right into my old famous teaching infamous teaching, infamous, not famous. What is this all about for the new people? Where does Shavuot begin? It begins on Wave Sheaf Day. What does Wave Sheaf represent? I wasn't going to do that. I said I wasn't going to do it. I'm going to do it though.
First fruits risen from the dead.
First fruits risen from the dead. And we get that from, now if you don't believe in the New Testament, you're going to have a hard time understanding this, because the New Testament is where we get it from. Now, Christians who don't believe in the Old Testament, they don't get it because they've done away with the law. So in Matthew 24, verse 50, no, not Matthew 24, it's Matthew 27, verse 50. And crying again with a loud voice, Jesus released his spirit. So this is the day of Passover. We know that it's Passover. And behold, what happened after this? The veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And Christianity goes off, and that's us being able to walk right into the throne of God, and we're free to go directly to him, and we don't have to do nothing. Poppycock. And the earth quaked, and the rocks were sheared. And here's the important part. And the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep arose. Did they come back to life? No. No. When Yeshua died that Wednesday afternoon, their tombs were marked. It's the same as the barley being marked with a cord. The whole ceremony of the barley preparation and having the green. Well, this barley here is ready. That barley over there is not ready. So we put a cord around the barley, and then the priest goes out on or after the Sabbath on the first day of the week. The sun is going down. It's twilight. And he does that whole ceremony with the barley. Has the sun set? Yes. Has the sun set? Yes. Has the sun set? Yes. And he does this whole ceremony. Is this the barley that I'm to cut? Yes. Is this the barley am I to cut? Yes. Is this the barley I am to cut? 3 times. You can read about this in the Mishnah. Is this the sickle I'm to cut the barley with? Yes. Is this the sickle I'm to cut the barley with? Yes. Is this the sickle I'm to cut? For crying, just get on with it. Is this the sickle I'm to cut the barley with? Yes. Is this the basket I'm to put the barley in? Yes. Is this the basket I'm to put the barley in? I already said yes. Is this the basket I'm to put the barley in? Yes. Shall I cut the barley? Yes. Shall I cut the barley? So they do this whole ceremony. They get the crowd excited. And then he cuts the barley and he puts it in the basket, and they take it to the temple, and it's Saturday night, which is after sunset becomes Sunday, the first day of the week. And they takes the barley to the temple, and it stands there overnight. The next morning, before 9 a.m., they prepare the barley. They have to sift it, get the grain out, blow away the what do you call that?
Husks.
The husks. That's not the word I was looking for.
Chaff,
Well,
the chaff.
the chaff. And get the grain. Then they got to grind it into flour. Then they got to add frankincense to it, oil and salt. And then the priest is to take that at 9 a.m., takes a handful of it and throws it in the altar, or the burnt, to burn it on the altar. And the rest of it is waved, which is a big salad bowl full, is waved. And then the priests eat that. It's most holy. Most holy. What does that represent? Why does Jehovah care about the barley? Are you waving at me, Somber? Or? No? Okay.
No, no, it's okay.
I only see 2 pictures up here, so I just it's Jehovah doesn't care about the barley. He's not interested in getting his fair share of the food. It's symbolic. And that symbolism is found back here in Matthew 27, verse 52. And the tombs were open, and many of the bodies of saints who had fallen asleep arose. They arose on that Wednesday afternoon. And coming out of the tomb, when did they come out of the tomb? Verse 53, they came out of the tomb after his resurrection. In all the New Testament, this is the only place that this is mentioned. And coming out of the tomb after his resurrection, and they went into the holy cities and appeared to many. This is like a head exploding, eureka, I can't believe it type of moment. Because up until this point, no one, absolutely no one had gone to heaven. Yeshua said, no man has gone to heaven except the Son of Man who came down from heaven. So if Yeshua said that, that means that Elijah, Enoch, Adam, Abel, all these people, none of them went to heaven. Moses, King David, nobody had gone to heaven until this event took place, until the first fruits were waved in front of Jehovah. Yeshua said to Mary, don't touch me. Don't touch me. I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go and tell the brethren I'm alive.
Okay, now I have something. So
hang on.
Okay.
Then in the afternoon, they could touch him. In the afternoon, he's walking with the brethren on the road to Emmaus. And the other thing, before Yeshua died, the thief on the tree said to him, or Yeshua said to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. That thief on the tree did not go up with him that same Wednesday when he died. He came out of the grave with the rest of these people after Yeshua came out of the grave. And just before one more thing, Sombra, then we read in Revelation about the 24 elders. The word elders there is ancestors, which means that they were men who lived on this earth and died preceding us. These 24 elders were on this earth before us. So how did they get to heaven? If Yeshua said no one's gone to heaven except the Son of Man, how did they get there? They did not go to heaven when they died. The only way they could get to heaven is on this day when Yeshua came out of the grave and the dead came out with him at that time. Paul says he led a host of captives with him. The captives are those that are captured by Satan in death. He led a host of captives. He's the first. Paul also said he's the first of the first fruits. Those first fruits are those righteous saints who kept the Torah and died in the past. Either they were martyred as prophets or they died of old age, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But these are the people that were brought up, and these are the people who are the 24 elders in heaven right now, serving Jehovah, getting ready for the next first fruit offering, which is coming at the next wave offering at Shavuot. Sombra.
Okay, so what is a wave offering? The Hebrew word for wave is nuf. It's a noon, which represents activity or life. It's a fish that represents activity or life. It is a vav, which is a nail that connects. And it is a pei, which in this case is pronounced as a fe, which is a mouth. It means it speaks. So the word nuf is a connection, is connecting what we do with what we say. Therefore, to wave the loaves of bread, or in this case, to wave the barley, is to proclaim acts of servitude. This offering is giving Jehovah our service, our peace, and commitment to our master. So if barley was waved, those people who were resurrected, like you just said, they are the 24 elders who are in service. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I'm also a Newf.
You're a servant? No, you're a
No.
waiver.
I'm from Newfoundland.
Ah!
Mhm. I couldn't let that one go. But yeah, that's pretty cool. They are servants. So this is the key point for Wave Sheaf Day to understand. This is why the barley is so crucial to understand. It's, it's not just, okay, so it's not those saints who were cut or died and stored away. These are the first three. These are the best of the best. This is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Elijah, Elisha. Name the righteous, maybe Rahab. Yeah, I could say Rahab.
Ruth,
Ruth, Boaz,
Naomi,
Noah,
Zechariah, and Elizabeth.
Shem. Okay, like we're told there's 24 elders. Is there more? I don't know. Is there
Why would
only
Zachariah and
24?
Elizabeth be dead at this point?
Well, they were already old when he was born, wasn't he?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're dead. But anyhow.
Okay, well, they were late in their years, so let's say 60, 70, and they're 30 years later when he dies. Yeah, I think they might be dead. Anyway, there's all these things. Now, maybe all of them didn't make the cut. We're only told there's 24. Is there more? Yes, there could be. Now we're into the speculation part. So rather than speculate, let's just stick with the 24 that we know about. We know that their saints were raised up at the end when he died. And if that's Wave Sheaf Day, what is the first fruits wave offering? At Pentecost, at Shavuot. Anybody?
It's the wheat harvest.
It's the wheat. Oh, then what happens to the wheat harvest? The very first fruits of the wheat is taken and made into two loaves of leavened bread. And they're weighed before Jehovah. What does that represent?
All those who are part of the wheat harvest, the second resurrection.
The second resurrection. This is, get ready. You ready? You got your, maybe you should cover your ears. Maybe cover your ears might be better. This is the rapture. We don't believe in this is the rapture. We don't believe in the rapture. Yeah, this is what all the rapture people are talking about. They just don't know what they're talking about because they've done away with Shavuot. This is the wave offering. That's why my book, The Mystery of the Jewish Rapture 2033, is so controversial because it conflicts with everybody's sense of understanding what they think they understand about Torah. The rapture, the wave offering of Shavuot is when those of us who are alive will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and those of us who have dead, who died in the faith, will be raised up. Now that's everyone from the time, so after Yeshua came out of the grave, that's when that clock started. Each and every one of the apostles will be raised up at Shavuot at the same time that we are raised up or that we are changed. Let me go ahead, Paul.
No one knows the day or the hour, mate. This is the problem. It's really a double whammy, isn't it?
Well, just because some people are Bahar, I can't fix them all. So we have another book that deals with that subject. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on the Shavuot. If you can't figure out what the day and the hour is, then your Baharness is blinding you from understanding. Get the book. It was a riddle, not a command. And I'm speaking to you facetiously, Paul, you know that. Baljeet, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, do we still make that the wheat offering at this time?
Do we still make the wheat offering?
The wheat offering on the Pentecost?
We don't have a temple to make it, but we are everything that takes place in the day is symbolism for us to understand what that means. You are called now to be wheat. You are in the ripening process right now. You're in the final days of the wheat getting ripe just before the harvest, which is 11 years from now. Again, we're going to explain some of this stuff in our book about the early and latter rains. I know that when Lori Dodd read it, her mouth was open. She caught a whole lot of flies during that week. She just stuff that you just don't think about and consider and look at from a different perspective. And that's what I'm bringing to the table here. The wheat, you and I are the wheat, and we are to be waved, but we have to be cut. The angels are going to go out and they're going to cut the wheat, and the tares are going to be thrown into the fire, and the wheat's going to be gathered in the barn.
So Joe, that thing about not having a temple, this is true. We don't have a temple, but what you just said, we are the wheat. And what is the wave offering? The wave offering is proclaiming an act of service. So you can take the opportunity tomorrow in prayer to proclaim yourself to Jehovah as a servant to him. I will serve you. Take my life and let me serve you. The next thing that we're supposed to do is we're supposed to have a mincha offering or a meal offering or a grain offering is in there. The mincha offering is a meal that you actually enjoy with Jehovah. So enjoy a meal together with him, have communion with him, have discussion, have discourse with him, just like we're doing right now, discussing his word and getting to know him, building intimacy. There is a drink libation. What is the drink libation? The drink libation represents the pouring of the blood. You can't come into the presence of Jehovah without the blood of Yeshua on you. If you do that, if you come into his presence uncovered, with your sins exposed, if you don't have the death of Yeshua on you, then you deserve death. So don't do that. What else was there? There was, I should just go to the teaching. Last night I did this teaching for Philemon's congregation. I went through all of these different sacrifices. It doesn't want to open. And what all these different sacrifices mean. So there's the waving, there's the burnt offering, which is the olah. Olah means to come into or ascend into his presence. So when I ascend into his presence, basically it's like standing before an elder and having the elder teach you so that you get elevated. It's what we do every week when we come here. We learn so much more when we come here and when we stand in the presence of Joe and all the other people who talk and teach. We learn more, we get elevated, and so that we can go back out and we can be stronger out. We are elevated, we are enlightened as we go out. So that's what an olah offering is to come into his presence so that you can be elevated. So then we have the grain offering, which is the mincha, which is the communion and building relationship and intimacy. We have the drink offering, which is the blood of Yeshua covering us. And then we also have a sin offering. And so a sin offering it's the word chatat, which is a fence for privacy. That's the letter chet. And then the tet is a snake. It surrounds. We have an aleph, which is an ox, which means the strength of authority. And then we have a tav, which is the mark or the seal of a covenant. So the root of the word chatat is chat, which is a measurement, as in a cord to measure something or measure a distance or measuring wrong actions. The aleph tav at the end of the word means to measure something in comparison to Jehovah. So the meaning of the word sin is to measure ourselves, our actions, our motives against Jehovah's commandments. And when we make a sin offering, we're confessing these things in which we don't measure up to Jehovah's commands, and we receive the forgiveness for the sins. And then the last one is a sacrifice of peace offering. And again, I said before, shalom is to destroy the authority of chaos. It doesn't mean chaos goes away. It just means chaos doesn't have authority over you anymore. So when you bring a peace offering to Jehovah, you are entering into his authority and submitting to his authority so that he has authority over you and no longer have chaos and authority over you. So we can still do those things in our service, in our celebration of Shavuot in our homes. Ronan.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
We don't need a temple. We are a temple.
We do need a temple. We just don't have one right now.
Well,
Yeah.
We
Okay.
need to understand what it all meant. That's the thing.
Yes.
We need to understand his heart.
Okay. So now, if you can grasp what the barley represents, and you can grasp what the wheat represents, it represents those saints that we just read about in Matthew 27 that came back to life. The first time, other than Boaz and Elijah raising up that widow's son coming back to life, we are, other than those two times, barley represents that time when people are brought back to life. So wave sheaf or waving of the wheat represents the next time a group of people is going to be raised back to life. In that group will be that 144,000. Is it only the 144,000? I don't know. But if it is, then each of us is vying for one of those seats, or should be. And if it's more, awesome, great. We're still vying for those seats. But that's not the end of it. There's another ingathering at Sukkot, and those fruits, nuts, and vegetables represent the rest of the harvest that'll be brought in at the end of the 7th millennium. Okay, so if you can understand, pomegranate is not a nut. Okay, there's nuts, there's walnuts, acorns, there's ba'ars. So those guys will all be brought in at that time. And again, what does that represent? What does that mean? Stop and go back to the barley. When is it done? It's done on the 8th day. When is the wheat done? It's done on the 8th day. So the 8th day is significant. Now, we've just pointed some of these things out to you as we're reading this morning, the 8th event, the 8th day event. Start thinking about it. Because the 8th day in Deuteronomy is mentioned, or in Leviticus mentioned one time, and I think it's mentioned a second time in Deuteronomy. Other than that, it doesn't tell you what to do with the 8th day. So Judah does not know what the Feast of Trumpets means, what it represents, nor do they understand what the 8th day represents. So they call the end of the Torah reading and the beginning of the Torah. That's an invention of men. They call it Shemini Atzeret, which means what? The 8th day. I don't know what it means. But it's the most important holy day. All the other ones point to it. Again, so if you look at the 50th is an 8th day. So the 50th year, the Jubilee year, is also an 8th day. What do we do on a Jubilee year? Let's not ask, let's go and read it, because we need to go over this stuff. It is a sabbatical year coming up. We need to know what you do in a Jubilee year.
Everyone returns to their possession.
Okay, so let's read it. So we're going to jump down here to verse 8, Leviticus 25, verse 8. Oh, I got to share my screen first. Sorry. Leviticus 25, verse 8. And you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years to you, 7 times 7 years, And the end of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be 49 years to you. That is represented today, Sabbath, the 49th day, Shabbat. That's what that represents to us. Then you shall, so hang on. When do you do verse 9? Pay attention. It's not in the 49th year. Read it carefully. And you shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement, the trumpet shall sound throughout all the land. And you shall make the 50th year. It sounded in the 50th year holy. This trumpet blast on the 10th day of the 7th month is holy in the 50th year. 1 year, and proclaim liberty. Look up this word liberty. We got to look it up, because this is not the American liberty. This is Jehovah's liberty. There's a big difference. Proclaim liberty. Circle, pictograph. So we got Dalet Resh. So the 2 letters that I always get confused, Dalet Resh, they look almost the same to me. Dalet Resh. I have to look at the pictures to tell. The pictograph of a Dalet is a door representing a moving back and forth. The Resh is the head of a man. Combined, these mean the back and forth movement of man. A generation is 1 revolution of the family line. The Hebraic understanding of order and continual cyclical process of life and death, or the renewal and destruction. This root can also have the meaning of circling around of something in the wild area, or to cover a large area. What does the bride do on the wedding day, the 8th day, Shavuot? She circles her man. She circles her groom. Ella, go ahead.
Okay, we're saying they're to proclaim the Jubilee in the 7th month of the 49th year.
No, no, that's not what I said.
No, I'm just saying the scripture says the 7th month.
No, it does not.
A 10th day of the 7th month.
No.
Well, 7 Sabbaths will be of the 49 years. So if we're assuming that's from Aviv, that's the beginning of the.
Read the next verse. The next verse goes with it, not the one before.
You shall hallow the 50th year. So we're in the 50th year when we do the 7th month sounding.
Yes.
Okay.
So
it sounds like you're in the 49th year.
No, that's the way Christianity has taken and interpreted it. Then you shall cause, verse 8, and you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years to you, 7 times 7 years, and the time of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be 49 years. 49 years are done.
Okay. All right.
Period.
All right.
You see the period?
But then you're not proclaiming until the 7th month of the 50th year that it is the Jubilee year.
Yes.
So you've got 7 months in there that it's not proclaimed.
So this is put here to make you think. You have to think. Then you shall cause, so after the 49 years are over.
All right.
So the 49 years are over. Aviv 1 is now here. Then you shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement, the trumpet shall sound throughout all the land. And you shall make the 50th year holy.
Right. Well, I'm just, why are we waiting 7 months to make it holy?
Because you do it on the 7th month. I'm getting to the importance of why this is.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, we go back. You got to understand things. You got to understand what these words mean. Liberty, right? It's circling. Okay, a generation. So we got 1865. 1865. Where are you? There you are. Swallow, a bird that flies in a circle. Okay, so that's like a barn swallow. A flowing liquid. Pure, a swallow. So Dalet Resh, Vav Resh. That's our word. Swallow. And that's the word that we translated in English into liberty. Like a barn swallow is liberty. What? And now I'm confused. Okay, so let's go down here. Let's see what the strong binds. A flowing, free run, liberty, flowing of myrrh, liberty. Stop thinking American liberty. Freedom of speech, freedom to do whatever you want. That's not what this is. Deror, deror. From an unused root, meaning to move rapidly, freedom, hence spontaneity of outflow, and so clear, liberty, pure, like a barn swallow, blue, swimming, flowing through the air. They're amazing to watch. Freedom. Freedom. Freedom to do what? Not whatever the heck you want. It's a different freedom. To proclaim liberty throughout all the land. Let me go back to the English. Shall be a jubilee to year. You shall, no, did I read? Make the 5th year holy to proclaim liberty throughout all the land. What does that mean? The slaves are going to be set free. They're going to be set free. Freedom. They're going to be restored back, and we're going to read some more here. They're going to be restored back to the land. It shall be a jubilee to you, and you shall return each man to his possession, and you shall return each man to his family. The 50th year shall be a jubilee to you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself, just like in the 49th, in it, nor gather in it of your undressed vine, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You shall eat the increase of it out of the field. In the year of this jubilee, you shall return each man to his possession. And if you sell anything to your neighbor or buy from your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the jubilee, you shall buy of your neighbor according to the number of years of the fruits he shall set to you. So we have 12 contracts from the Simon Bar Kokhba period. They are dated that they are only going to be leased for 5 years. That's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th year. So they're only being leased for those 5 years because the first year is the Jubilee and the 7th year is a 40 or the first sabbatical year. So the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. We got 12 contracts to state that. You're only going to lease the land according to the crops you can get off it. According to the number of years, you shall increase the price. So if I got more years, 5 or 25, it's a higher price. You shall not oppress one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am Jehovah your God. What is the 50th year got to do with Jehovah our God and freedom and not planting? What does this mean? Well, the 50th year is like the 8th day. The 8th day of Sukkot. What does that represent? It's like the 8th day of Shavuot. It's like the 8th day of Wave Sheaf Day. All these things are combined together in the Jubilee year. All these things are combined together in the 8th day. You want to understand the 8th day, you have to understand each one of these other aspects. You have to consider, because it's not spelled out black and white for you. This holy day requires you to think. It requires you to understand. And it forces you to have wisdom in order to grasp it. The 8th day is the most beautiful day. Freedom, liberty, true liberty. You're going to have your own land on the 8th day. You're going to be with your groom at the end of the wedding feast of 7 days. What does that mean? You're told to go up to Jerusalem 3 times. Passover, Shavuot, Sukkot. The 3 hags. Those are the 3 times you have wave offerings or present first fruits offerings. Those are all done on the 8th day. What's that got to do with the 8th day? All of this has to do with the consummation of the marriage with you and Jehovah. It's the 8th millennium. It's after the 7th millennium is over. Satan is locked away at the end of the 7th millennium. And then in the 8th millennium, we have Jehovah ruling here on earth. The New Jerusalem comes down. You read about in Revelation 20 to 22. The New Jerusalem comes down. That's the groom giving you the dowry. I'm going on here. I'm running on at the mouth. Does this make sense?
So
I
does
see
it basically mean that we have freedom in Yeshua?
We have freedom in Jehovah.
Jehovah. Sorry, same thing to me.
Okay. So we have freedom, but what's that freedom? That freedom is found in our Katuba. That's freedom from fear, freedom from death, freedom from lack, freedom from famine, freedom from disease. He said it right here in the Katuba. I will give you freedom of all these things if you obey. That's the liberty that we get to have. So today's liberty in North America is the freedom of speech. So I have freedom of speech. I can say whatever the heck I want, even if it's a lie. That's not Jehovah's freedom. I have freedom to do whatever I want. I can run around naked. I can have adultery. I can do whatever I want because I have freedom of expression. That's not what Jehovah said. I have freedom to kill. That's not what Jehovah said. So his freedom is one where we all get along together when we all keep his Katuba. Sombra.
If you take it down to a rudimentary thing, if a man has a piece of land, he has to defend that land. He invites a woman in, they're working the land together, but he's not only just got to protect his land now, he's got to protect his family and his children because he's the strong one. He's the one that has the power and the ability. So he's got to have a pitchfork in one hand and he's got to have a sword and shield in the other in order to protect the land.
But you don't have to do that in Jehovah's kingdom.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay. So when you've got the enemy, you've got to fight. You're not free because you've got to constantly fight to defend. But when you have this king, Jehovah, who comes in and he says, I will protect and defend you. Well, now you can lay down your sword because Jehovah will be the one to defend you from the enemies coming to attack your land and your wife and you and your children. And that's the freedom. You can let everything down. You can let your guard down because you don't have to stand and be on guard all the time because Jehovah is your guard. Jehovah is your shield. He's your protector.
So getting back to the blowing of the shofar, it's done on the 10th day. What's the 10th day represent? The Day of Atonement. Why? So here's where Judah goes a little goofy. They say that's the start of the sabbatical year, the start of the Jubilee on the 10th day of the 7th month. It's the 10th day. It's the 7th month. It's not the first day of the first month. And yet that's the start of the year to them. It doesn't make sense. Victoria.
Sorry, I want to go back a little bit. The Jubilee year, the trumpet is blown in the 7th month. So does the person that rents land, can he stay on that land until the 7th month, or does his lease end at the end of the 6th year, the 49th year?
The lease for the land, for the crops, you're renting for the crops, however many crops you can get off that land. It ends, it actually ends at the end of the harvest season.
Okay, yeah, so that's
Right.
yeah.
So, but it ends at either the harvest season, depending where you are, or the 1st of Aviv.
Okay, and the slaves, when can they not pack up their stuff and go?
Okay, so that's what I'm getting to. On the 10th day, what does the 10th day represent?
Okay, I'm muting myself now. I'm waiting for your answer.
Okay. What does the 10th day is the Day of Atonement. So now let's go back to, pop this up again.
Is it the inauguration of a king?
I like that. That's not where I was going, but I like that.
But that's what I've only ever known, which is the same thing as what you're doing on when the trumpet is blown at Shavuot, because the king is coming. So the groom represents the king.
Just hold that thought for a moment.
Okay.
Hold that. I think that's a good one. I not considered that, but yeah, I like that. Let's go back to Leviticus 16. Leviticus 16 is explaining the Day of Atonement. So what we're talking about in Leviticus 25, blow the shofar on the 10th day of the 7th month, is on the Day of Atonement. So we have to go back and read this. What's it talking about? And Jehovah spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they offered before Jehovah and they died. And Jehovah said to Moses, speak to Aaron, your brother, that he does not come at all times into the sanctuary within the veil before the mercy seat, which is on the ark, so that he will not die. For I will appear in the cloud on the mercy seat. Aaron shall come into the sanctuary this way, with a bull, a son of the herd, and a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and he shall have the linen breeches on his flesh, and shall be girded with a linen girdle, and with a linen mitre he shall be dressed. These are holy garments, and he shall wash his flesh in water and put them on. And he shall take from the congregation of the sons of Israel 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Okay, pay attention. And Aaron shall offer his young bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. So Aaron represents the high priest. He represents Jehovah. The linen clothes represents the purity of Jehovah. The bull is representing Jehovah, right? Verse 7. And he shall take the 2 he-goats and present them before Jehovah at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron shall cast lots on the 2 he-goats. 1 lot is for Yeshua. No, it doesn't say that. 1 lot is for Jehovah. One of those goats represents Jehovah, and the other lot for a complete removal. The other lot is for Azazel, for the Azazel goat, not the scapegoat, not the one who's convicted wrongly. The scapegoat represents the one who's convicted and is guilty. Verse 9. And Aaron shall bring the goat on which Jehovah's lot fell and offer it for a sin offering. Though, where does it say in your Bible you're to offer a human being for a sin offering? Right there. Jehovah died for you. Right there. Jehovah. So you want to help Judah to understand who Yeshua is? Bring them back to Exodus or Leviticus 16:9. Jehovah died for you. Jehovah was your sin offering. is your sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell to be the complete removal shall be presented alive before Jehovah to make an atonement with him, to let him go for a complete and Azazel into the wilderness. And that goat is thrown off the cliff in the Azazel valley. And Aaron shall bring the young bull of the sin offering. So again, you jump into Revelation and it talks about the strong angel, Revelation 12, I think it is. The strong angel coming down, or maybe it's 20, coming down and grabbing Satan and dragging him off and throwing him into the pit. That's what this ceremony is representing. The day when Satan is locked away. So let's go, why don't we go there and read it? How is it, Revelation 12 or 20? Anyone know? Revelation or 12:20. Yep, there it is, 12:7. And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels warring against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels warred, but he did not prevail, nor was there place found for them in heaven anymore. And the great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called devil, the Satan, who deceives the whole world, except for you, of course, because you guys aren't deceived. He deceives the whole world, including you. He was cast out from the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard the great voice of him saying in heaven, that's not what I'm looking for. No, is it 20 I'm looking for?
20 verse 2.
20 verse 2. Okay, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key to the abyss and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the abyss and shut him up and set a seal on him. They should not deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that time, he must be loosed for a little while. Where does it say where he is destroyed? Satan defeated. And when the verse 7, and when the 1,000 years have expired. So all this is represented in Leviticus 16:9, where Satan is taken and thrown into the Azazel valley off the cliff by a strong man. And when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be loosed out of his prison, and he will go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of them as the sand of the seas. And they went up over the breadth of the earth and encircled around the camp of the saints and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire. Again, this is the Azazel goat being cast into off the cliff, where the beast and the false prophet were, and he will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Satan is now gone. It's the end of the 7th millennium. Satan is now gone. It's the 10th day of the 7th month, and Satan is locked away. What is left? What is left? The sin offering goat is Jehovah, who spilled his blood to pay for you, so that you can be free, so that you can have liberty if you obey. If you obey. No matter what nationality you are, if you obey. Liberty, freedom. So now the shofar is blown for you at the end of the 7th millennium. Because that's when liberty will be here, when the 8th millennium begins. So if we look at this 120th Jubilee right now, that Day of Atonement, we're saying lands on the year 2033. If you do the same thing at the end of the 7th millennium, take the last Jubilee cycle. What is that? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. 12 years before the end of the 8th or 7th millennium. Satan will be thrown into the pit and burnt up. Then the trumpet is blown. Then freedom reigns. Then people will be restored to their, it's the end of the seventh. What do you do in the Jubilee? You return to your land. It's the 8th Sabbath. It's the 8th sabbatical year of rest. Am I making sense? I'm looking and I don't know if I'm making sense. I don't see your faces. Does that make sense? Does that explain it? The king is coming in the 8th millennium. The horns are blown for the 8th millennium when the king comes, just as they did on Shavuot. 2033 is not a Jubilee year. 2033 is just another year, but it lines up with the Day of Atonement when you count back with each of the holy days being a day for a year.
It's because Janet asked a question earlier about the Jubilee year being the 10th day of the 7th month. Is that when Satan is locked up?
Yes. I think,
But
yes.
But it's
Not-
not, on
not-
it's not on a Jubilee year, though, that he is locked up, because unless the days were shortened, meaning it was in, because the Jubilee year, the next one we have coming is 2045. So, and
Yeah.
that will not be the day that Satan is locked away. So that's what that question means.
Yeah, it's not done in a Jubilee year. That's correct.
Isn't he locked away 2033?
Yes.
Okay. At Atonement.
At Atonement. So, we're trying to address when is the shofar blown? It's blown in the Jubilee year, right? So it's blown in a Jubilee year, but Satan will be locked away so that so there's a lot of things going on. The goat that's being killed wasn't killed on the Day of Atonement. That goat that's being killed represents Jehovah, and he was killed at Passover time in 31 AD. So this day also represents the day that Satan is going to be killed, and Satan's not going to be killed until the end of the 7th millennium, whatever that Day of Atonement is at the end of the 7th millennium. I don't know what year that is. I don't have that. Oh, I do have the chart. Do I have the chart? So 3024, take away 12 will be 3012 AD. But I'm not sure. I got 1,000 years to figure it out, so I'm not really worried about it just yet. But at that time, Satan will be burnt up and gone for good. At that time, after Satan is gone, in the 8th millennium, on that day of atonement, that shofar will be blown, for that's when we will be restored back to our land. But not just restored back to our land, because the land doesn't mean anything. We're going to be restored back to Jehovah. We're going to be restored back to Jehovah, to our inheritance, which was before the downfall in the Garden of Eden.
And the New Jerusalem.
The New Jerusalem will be coming down at that time, but we're going to be restored back to Jehovah. So if we can, again, this is all these things, the 8th day, the Feast of Day of Atonement, Shavuot, Wave Sheaf Day, they're all connected and pointing to the 8th day. Jehovah figured that you were smart enough that you could figure out what the 8th day meant just by him giving you all these little teasers, these movie teasers about Chavo, about the Wave Sheaf Day, about the Day of Atonement, about the Feast of Tabernacle. You should be able to figure that out. And I guess he was wrong with a bunch of people, but for some of us, he was right. We could figure it out. We haven't got it exactly all figured out, but we got it figured out enough to know that this is pretty awesome. So I get excited on Wave Sheaf Day I get more excited about Shavuot. And I'm going to get really, really, really excited towards the end of the 7th millennium. Because I'll still be keeping count. I'll still be counting the Sabbatical and Jubilee years. I'll be counting the years. Because I know. Now, is there any other questions on this, or shall we? Because it's kind of late to start the Torah reading now.
I'd like to ask a question, but I'm not sure. You're gonna blow me out the door or what? Okay, we have the 10th day in the first month too.
Yep.
Where the lamb is taken. Basically,
The lamb is selected.
yeah, but it has to be pure. So that to me correlates to the 10th day of the 7th month, because we are perfected. Well, not perfected, but that's time for us to get rid of all our crap.
Well, we should have it all gone by then. Yes.
But we're
That's what
cleared
we
of it.
want. We want to find our names written in the book of life. There is a relationship between the two. The lamb is examined for 4 days after the 10th day. We should be pure by the end of the 10th day in the 7th month. Yeah, there is that relationship.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember what was said, but something to do with then after the 10th day in the first month, you are given your liberty and taken out of Egypt with Passover. There's some liberty in that.
So you're looking in Exodus.
I haven't got scripture in front of me, sorry.
I'm the burning bush, chapter 4, Moses given power and signs, 8, 9, plague of frogs, 10, 8th plague, 12, the Passover. So
I
you're
was trying
saying,
to develop my thoughts further, but then there was so much more to listen to.
yeah, so they're saying that the Passover on the 10th day, you choose the lamb, and then Passover, you're going to have liberty. Is that, and that's what you're trying to get to. Is that it?
Yes, you're not going to have liberty to the same extent, but you are going to move in and take on the covenant and the wedding, etc. at Shavuot.
Okay, I don't see it quickly. I'd have to do a lot more reading.
Well, when you're taken out of Egypt, you're not a slave anymore.
Yeah. No, it's a good connection that you're making. I like it. I'd like to find that verse because that would be pretty cool.
So I'd like to pursue it, but at the same time, I just wondered if, well, I think that there's some kind of connection between the first month, 10th day and the 15th day, and then in the 7th month, the 10th day again, and liberty, and a connection also to the 8th day in liberty and freedom.
So I see those 10th days again as the inauguration of a king. When Yeshua came into Jerusalem and they were waving palm branches and laying down their clothing in front of him, and he came in riding on a donkey, that's a picture of him coming in as a king.
I was on the 11th day.
11th day?
That was Palm Sunday. That's the 11th day. The 10th day was Friday night when he kept the Sabbath with the Mary and Boaz, and all the people came out on the Saturday to examine him. And then on the 10th day, he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. On the 11th day, that's Palm Sunday.
Okay, but he was inspected on the 10th day.
Yes, on Shabbat.
Okay.
There are so many connections and it's hard to get them all straight in your mind. So
I know I'm throwing out these little bits here. And I didn't. Yes. chronology is my big thing. So getting the chronology right helps you to understand everything. And so on the 6 days, John says Yeshua came to Jerusalem on the 6th day. That's Friday. And he went in and had supper with Martha and Mary. That's Friday night. That's a Sabbath meal. The next day, the people came to meet him and see Boaz. That was the Sabbath. Then the next day, Sunday, he rides into Jerusalem on the colt, Palm Sunday. Just while we got to pause here right now, Ella, are you still here? Is Ella still here?
I don't see her.
I don't see her. Okay, in case Ella wants to come back and watch this, I want to apologize to her. I was arguing with her and I was fairly strong in my position and I just get excited. I didn't mean to be like that. I'll write her a little note later, but I just, so, please don't take it personally. I do this.
Joe,
Yes.
okay, this whole lot that you just went through with all the 7th days and the 8th days, will you sometime put that in writing clearly?
It is. It is.
You went very fast. And
Yeah, I went very fast today. It's if you read my article, The Hidden Meaning in Pentecost, I've written it and rewritten it about a dozen times. If you go into
Okay,
the
no.
if you go in the archives,
I've got it. I've got it. I got it out this afternoon. I'll read it.
yeah, if you go in the archive section and you look under Shavuot and or Pentecost, and especially the 8th day. The 8th day, I've got the 8th day. There's about, for just the 8th day alone, there's a series of about 10 articles, all explaining the 8th day step by step. And it's
I mean, I
because of
don't have that much time.
well, if you want to know, there it is.
Joe, I don't have so much time. Now listen, but you also listed them in the newsletter, didn't you? You linked them.
Yeah, well, if you just go to the archives, they're all there.
I think.
Yeah, look under 8th day.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just put it in the chat.
The meaning of
Thanks.
Pentecost. Okay,
Thanks,
look
Sandra.
up, go into the 8th day one and the archives. Put that there in the chat.
Okay.
This
I'll
subject, yeah, this subject is huge. The more you contemplate, the more you understand the 7th day and the 8th day, the more you put that together for almost everything, how it comes up over and over again. They all teach you the meaning of the 8th day. It's not, most people, most pastors don't teach on it because they don't have a clue. But it's the most important subject you can learn. And I wasn't even going to talk about it today. I was just going to do the Torah portion. And then I'll just mention a little bit what I wrote in this week's thing. But it's a big subject and it's a huge subject. And I feel, personally, I feel like I'm repeating myself and just boring you to death saying the same things over and over again. But it sounds like you want me to keep on saying it because you don't all get it. Am I right? Silence. Okay, I'll
What
be
you
quiet.
say, Joe, you say it, you do say the same things, but it's always with a different connection. So that challenges us. Like, you'll be talking about Shavuot today and then the connection of the 8th day. And then you'll be talking about another topic another day and connection of the 8th day. So it takes time to put it all together.
Yeah, and that's, I totally get that.
That's
So,
okay. But it does
so
take-
as long as you guys aren't bored with me repeating myself, I will continue to do so. Okay.
Can I ask something else?
Okay, sorry, Sarkis, hang on, Sarkis.
Sorry,
Go
can
ahead,
I please-
Victoria.
Can you just go over the 2 loaves again? Off waved at Shavuot tomorrow for me.
Go
It
over what?
represents
Okay.
us, the 2 loaves. My understanding is it represents people, the wheat. The 1 loaf is for the people that will be changed in the twinkling of an eye when Yeshua comes. The other wheat loaf is for those that will be raised up from the graves. Is that what you say they represent?
I can accept that. What you've just said,
No,
I don't see anything wrong with it. I would,
that's what I understood what you said.
well, I have also believed that the 2 loaves represent, 1 loaf represents Israel and the other loaf represents Judah. Again, you can use that analogy. Does 1 loaf represent the dead coming back to life and those of us who are changed at twinkling of an eye? The other loaf, I can accept that one as well. Like
Okay.
there's nothing that says either one is wrong or either one is right. This is for you to draw understanding about this day and what he's doing in the plan of salvation. So yes, both of them work for me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sambi, were you going to say something about that?
I was just going to say, Joe wrote his book 15 years ago, but before that, he had years and years and years of study before he wrote the books, which means you've had time to study and razor sharp hone your understanding and depth of understanding on this subject. You're not a Johnny come lately. You didn't just learn this last week, and it's not like you don't have all your pieces in place. You have been studying all this for a long time. You're old. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know if that's a compliment or insult, but okay. Yeah, so the best thing, and this is what I said, I say this to anybody. If you are attending a Worldwide Church of God or one of their offshoots, and they got, I think, 800 or 8,000 offshoots, I don't know what they got now. Their main emphasis has always been teaching about the holy days. And that was the biggest blessing I got from them. I got to know what the holy days meant. Now, it was in 2003 in Penticton, BC, that one of the pastors, I was falling asleep. I was, okay, how long before we get out of here? I got to go eat. I go pick up the wife and my son. We're going to this really good sandwich and soup place here in Penticton. I forgot the name of it, something burning, white burning or burning something. And all of a sudden, he said something about the 8th day. And suddenly I sat up, ramrod straight in my seat, and I says, what? What did he just say? And I began scribbling down notes like a madman after that. And then I went up to him afterwards. I asked him to repeat. He said, well, you get the DVD. No, it wasn't a DVD. Get the cassette. Get the cassette recording. And I says, no, just tell me what you said. Say that again. Just that one line. And he did. And it blew me away. And I started charging from that point on about this subject, because he broke the ice. That one little phrase, he doesn't even know what he said. But for me, it was like a bombshell. It was huge. So, and that's what I sometimes think. I've talked about this a gazillion times. I don't want to repeat it again. I don't want to bore you guys. But if you guys are still learning and still trying to grasp some of this stuff, then let me know and I will keep on repeating it. It's important and it's big, but I think you already know. So that's sort of where my brain is. Sorry. Sarkis, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, just sidetrack to respond to your 2 stakes.
My 2 what?
The 2 stakes in terms of Judah and Israel.
We weren't talking about 2 stakes. We're talking about the 2 loaves.
well, I believe it has to do similar to the tree, olive tree. You have the olive tree, that's Israel. Judah is part of it. And you have the wild olive tree is the world that doesn't know and is being grafted into Israel. Whether it's 2 loaves, 2 sticks, or where everybody says Ephraim and Judah, I believe the other way around. And I think we need to include the world, because Israel was to be the Gentiles, is to include the Gentiles, because the purpose of Israel was to be the teachers to the world about Torah, about Jehovah. And so it's bringing the Gentiles who are pagan, who become God-fearers, and engrafted into Israel. And those are the 2 sticks. Those are the 2 trees. And that's where I look at it.
So there, Victoria, there's another example for you. And I can go with that one too. Each one, depending on the message you're bringing, each one works. Israel is 1 loaf of bread, and the world, if they're repentant, would be the other loaf of bread.
Absolutely. Because but going back to
okay, so let me just argue with you a minute then.
Go ahead.
Because now you got a rye bread and a whole wheat bread. I'm just, they're both made out of wheat, so you can't have rye.
Tastes good. Both of them
But
taste good.
On the showbread table, there are 12 loaves of bread, each representing the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
If that's not if that it is correct, that is a correct understanding. Each one represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Then would the 2 loaves not represent the 2 houses of Israel?
I don't look at it that way.
I'm not asking how you look. I'm asking you to compare the 12 loaves on the table and say, yes.
No, they don't represent the 2 houses of Israel, because Judah was dispersed as well. So eventually they got dispersed among the pagans and the Gentiles in the world. And so I think we need to watch out for that. And respectfully, I would say we're into a lot of times we bring Judaism thoughts here and teachings, not necessarily in this meeting, but in the movement back to Torah. And we need to be careful not to mix. And that's what part of the unleavened we learn, is not to mix other religion and teachings, and keep the word of God pure and clean. Because when we mix, now it makes it then it separates the people into hierarchy, into different classes, and we miss out on the original intent of the scripture. And so the 2 loaves represent Israel. But you have to remember, when people came out of Egypt, there were a lot of Gentiles and there, a lot of foreigners who came with them. And
we don't count them.
Well, but
they
were
all went to Armenia.
Hold on. Whatever tribes they were in, they were part of that tribe. So they became a mixture, but they became part. They took the identity, just like Ruth said. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. That's exactly what they did. And I think we need to recognize that. And that's why it's important for me, it's important when I speak to somebody who's not Jewish or Israelite, to explain to them, when you come and dwell among the Israelites, you are taking their identity. You're taking the identity of the tribe that you want to be part of, and you're taking the identity of God, that He is your God. And when we do that, that's why the book of Ruth is so important to understand that the Gentiles have a place in the tribes, and that the tribes, they're not on their own. They are a vessel to receive the world and include them to become part of the people of God.
So Sarkis,
yeah.
The end of when does the wedding take place?
Well, exactly. I want to talk about that.
Well, just answer the question. When does the wedding take place?
It happened right after Exodus.
No.
Oh,
In-
that's
in-
a Jubilee event, and it demonstrated that on Shavuot there was a Katuba. So I want to talk about, you're talking about Jubilee here, and I want to reinforce it that the Exodus event is a Jubilee event. And not only that, the curse is related to that Jubilee event because Leviticus 26 talks about that. Because you could see the curses that happened to Egypt, it's right in there.
The Exodus takes place after the
2450.
No,
Oh,
the
well,
Exodus takes place in
years after
20
that.
No, the Exodus takes place in the 2458,
Yeah, it's the
which after creation.
Yes, but it happened the first sabbatical, in the middle of the first sabbatical year after the 49th, which is on the 50th. And they ended the land on the 50th of Jubilee.
No, they entered the land in the after the 51st Jubilee.
Yeah, well, right on. Yeah, I can see that, but it's the 50th. They finished the 50. I mean, no matter how the language is.
The 50th.
Yeah, I mean, I use your calendar.
So the
Okay.
first, hang on, we got to go back to
I'm
number
using
one.
your calendar.
The number one doesn't count until the number one is finished.
Yes.
You're not
We
one until the year is over.
Yes, and 49 finished. That's when they started the Exodus. On
50 finished. 50 finished.
Okay, well, okay. I got your point.
Okay, so
but still, the point here is it happened on the Jubilee event. It's a Jubilee event.
It's a Jubilee event. Okay, I can go with that. So what I wanted you to answer me was, when does the wedding take place? The holy day is Sukkot, okay?
It's on the 8th day.
On the 8th day.
After the 7th day of Sukkot.
That's right. So it represents the 7th millennium, so it's the 8th millennium taking place. So now I forgot my next question.
All right.
That's okay, I forget.
I'm trying to be a good student here.
You were talking about the loaves and the branches, the 2 sticks.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The wedding takes place at the end of the 7th millennium. What's going to happen during that 7th millennium? The
You're
whole
asking me
world,
that?
well, I'm asking rhetorically, the whole world is going to be keeping Shabbat, right? Except for Gog and Magog.
Yes.
Then all the Gentiles will not be Gentiles. They'll be all part of Israel keeping Torah.
Absolutely.
So who is Jehovah marrying in the 8th millennium?
He's marrying Israel.
Israel, which now includes
the Gentiles.
Everyone who's keeping Torah.
Exactly.
And those who are not keeping Torah, there's this place that the Satan's going to be visiting called the Lake of Fire Hotel.
Mm-hmm. What about the guests? What happened to the guests?
What guests? They're part of the wedding.
Well, when there's part of the wedding.
Yeah, they're part of the wedding.
Yeah, but
some
what
of these
happens to them?
analogies, they become part of the wedding. I don't know what happens to them.
Well, that's the problem is what happens.
Some analogies
after the
don't go and explain everything.
Yeah,
some of them
what
are just
happens
for
after, what happens after the wedding to the guest? That's the question.
they are part of the bride.
Okay. Thank you.
You let me off the hook there real quick. Okay, moving on. Okay, is there any other questions about this 8th day in Shavuot while we're here today? And they don't be afraid to ask the question if I go off on the deep end too quick. And I don't mean to argue with you. I like arguing with you people, but I don't mean to do it. And I hope I didn't hurt Ella's feelings.
Ella is a nice big girl.
I know. And she'll put me in my place too.
Can I please ask Sarkis a question?
Yep.
Sakis, I want to put my email address in the chats. Will you please contact me?
Am I in trouble now?
Yeah.
No, I want to ask you about your patterns. You always talk about the patterns. I want to know more about your patterns.
That's where I learned from Joe. He taught me about it. Their patterns.
Mate, he talks too much.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll respond.
Victoria's looking for the cold notes.
I can give it to you quickly right now if Joe allows me. I just show you quickly. So I did this last week with a couple I met at a meeting, and is that okay, Joe?
No.
I'll still
Go
respond
ahead.
to you.
Go
but
ahead. If you got
do it
Cole's
quickly.
notes, let's see how Cole's they are.
Yeah, basically, you always want to look at the pattern based on his calendar and God's calendar, Jehovah's calendar, and that is the Moedim. It's very simple. How often do you present yourself before the Lord in a year? 3 times. Okay. How many harvests are there? 3 times. How many offerings you have to do? 3 times. You know, in those 3 events. We're not talking about sacrifices in as much as related to the harvest. And so when you look at that, you can see a pattern here that the first time Jehovah shows up in the person of Yeshua was on the first fruit. And that's the barley harvest. The second time he's coming.
Fast?
I'm sorry?
You're really going too fast. I'm trying to make notes. That's why
I'm sorry.
Send it to me.
I'll go slow. All right.
No, but we're taking up the meeting now.
Okay, there are 3. You present yourself 3 times before the Lord in a year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, you got 3 harvests in a year: the barley, the wheat, then the fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
And then you do wave offering 3 times. You have the barley, the wheat, and then the fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
Well, the first time Yeshua showed up and he died and offered himself, and so he offered the barley, the first fruit, and he took the saints with him. So we looked at in the Gospels where the saints resurrected with him, and he offered them as the first fruit.
Yeah.
And Yeshua talks a lot about the wheat and the harvest. And so we see that the next event is Shavuot, and it's related to the wheat harvest. And that's his second coming. And then the fruits and nuts are presented during the Sukkot, and that's the wedding is the 8th day, and that's during Sukkot is the 7 days, the 7th millennium. The rest, it's sabbatical rest, and so now you have then the 8th day, the wedding, and that's the simple format I use. People get it quickly when I share that, because now all of a sudden they're seeing a pattern. But there's a lot more. But if we look at when we're talking today about Jubilee, is the year of release. And what did Jehovah say to Moses and Aaron? Go tell Pharaoh to let my people go, to release my people. That's a pattern of a Jubilee, saying, hey, go get them out. It's time to release my people. And so what do you see happening? He takes him out. And not only that, they bring gifts with him. So when you let the slaves and free, you give them goods and gifts, and then you release the land, and so they get their land back, the promised land. So that's a pattern of a Jubilee.
Thank you, Sakis.
Yeah, but when you see the curses in Leviticus 26, you'll see the pattern as well on the plagues of Egypt. And the last two curses that Joe talks about, which is war and slavery, it's not mentioned, but you can see the pattern there. When Egypt declares, when Jehovah declares war and kills their firstborn, and then Egypt declares war against them by sending their military, their army against the Israelites, and he drowns them in the ocean. That's war. That's the fifth plague. The sixth one is slavery. We see a few years later, the neighboring nations conquering Egypt for almost 100 years and enslaving them. So you correct me on that, Joe, if I'm wrong.
No, now I see what you're talking about. And I was just, as you were talking, I'm looking at my chart in the Jubilee cycle.
Yep.
The Day of Atonement, or the Year of Atonement, will be 1398 BC.
Yep.
Which was 20 years before the Exodus, which took place in 1379 BC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what happened in Egypt in 1398 BC.
So
I don't know.
But these are patterns, and when we look at the patterns of the Moedim, it makes the scripture much clearer. And Joe, thank you for your books, the 2300 Days of Hell, and remember Sabbatical 2016, and it was a riddle, not a command. I mean, those books really helped me understand a lot more. I just condense it to make it easy to communicate with my Christian friends who don't know scriptures. So
You didn't mention the mystery of the Jewish
I haven't
rapture.
read that yet. I'm planning to do that. But you've talked about it, so it's there. No, that's
Okay.
on my list.
Thank you very much. both
You're
of
welcome,
you.
and I'll respond to your text as well.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we have questions about? The 8th day, Shavuot, the resurrections? Nobody's asked me about the resurrecting the dead on the Feast of Trumpets. That's a good thing. Okay, just Sarkis, there's a Victoria's email in the chat there if you want to grab it before we close out. Okay, nothing left. Then I want to thank you all for joining me today and letting me share this with you. Again, two of my most favorite teachings is the Wave Sheaf Day and the Shavuot teaching, and the 8th day, tying them all together. And I seem to be doing it 2 times a year. Sometimes it's too cold. I don't do the 8th day because I'm away. But we have a meeting again tomorrow. We will be meeting at 10 a.m. on Shavuot, May 8th, 2022, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then again at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have a presentation that I'll give you tomorrow. I'm going to go Christianese on you, I think. I'm going all Christian on you, and I don't know how this is going to go. So I'm kind of excited to see. It's either going to be great or it's going to be a flop. So we'll see. We'll see. So I hope you show up and can participate with me. I'm going to try and take the Christianese out of Shavuot and put a proper light on it, I hope. I think that's what I aim to do. I don't know if I achieve it. So anything else, Randy, that we need to remind people of?
Anything about the widows again, or are we good with that?
It's a whole year. It's a third year tithe to take care of the widows and the orphans. And we've been doing that. We've sent out our second installment. I tried to get it out before Shavuot. I want to encourage you to take part in that. You don't have to help us. You don't have to donate to us. But I want to encourage you not to miss out on the blessings that Jehovah is giving you. We even read it in today's reading that Jehovah will make you make your wife a widow if the widows and orphans aren't taken care of. That's part of the Katuba that we read today. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Take care of the widows and orphans in your own family. Then I encourage you to take care of those that are in the faith, rather than just giving to a women's shelter or some thing down the road that, you know, nobody knows about or nobody knows what you're doing. And then if you're doing it with someone, explain to them why and what you're doing. This is a third tithe year. This is the 6th year of a sabbatical cycle. And this is why we do it, because we're commanded to do this in Deuteronomy. And that helps us, you know, open the door for you to explain the Torah to them. So we put a couple responses in the newsletter this week from people who have been blessed by that. We have on the list, I have about 14, roughly 14, I think it is, that I'm trying to take care of. So yeah, that's about it. And this is going to go on for the whole year. Even after the Feast of Sukkot is over, the widows and orphans still need to be taken care of until Aviv next year. And then after that, they're on their own. They can go fend for themselves. Forget about them. No, that's not the point. The point is that you get to know who they are. You get to know them personally. That's why you're encouraged to do it yourself. They're not just a charitable cause. These are real people. Some of them are lonely. Some of them are struggling. Some of them don't have didn't have an insurance plan set up when their spouse died. There's all kinds of things going on. So, you know, some of them are elderly. They can't do stuff. And I'm finding out more and more about that all the time. Stuff that I used to do at the drop of a hat, takes me 15 minutes to get ready for it. So yeah, yeah, that's about it. Okay. With that, I'm going to ask James James O'Jude if you would do the closing prayer for us for today.
Yes, sir. But before that, I would like to read Jeremiah 32, 17 to 21, and then conclude. Our Lord God, behold, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and by your outstretched arm. Nothing is too difficult for you, who shows loving kindness to thousands, but repays the iniquity of fathers into the bosom of their children after them. O great and mighty God, the Lord of hosts is his name, great in counsel and mighty indeed, whose eyes are open to all the ways of the sons of men, giving to everyone according to his ways and according to the fruit of his deeds, who has set signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, and even to this day, both in Israel and among mankind. And you have made a name for yourself, as at this day. Dear Heavenly Father God, thanks for this wonderful time and fellowship as we discuss and read your word and talked about many of our doubts and uncertainties and questions, so Father. As our brother Joseph Dumond and among others who have raised questions and thoughts, personally, oh Father, you have been teaching me many things that I have had questions. Lord, I would like to give you all the praise and glory and honor for the time that we have together to learn together. As you have many times kept on repeating the goodness, the good message, the covenant, the laws and the commands that you have for us, so that it is imprinted in our hearts and in our minds, so that we do not disobey you or to fall away from your path. Rather, look upon you, come to you with a humble heart, asking for forgiveness every day, so that we can be pure and clean and righteous according to your standards. and to be with you forever. I pray that everybody right now in this fellowship, O Lord, be blessed and let your face shine upon us as we take this time to rest, O Lord. I pray that you continue to bless us. As this pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, James. And thank you all for joining us today and being a part of this. I want to encourage you to, we publish a lot of videos out there, different teachings about different things. Share them. Help other people to learn. Share them. Start a conversation. You don't have to include me in the conversation. Start a conversation. Start teaching people what you're learning. If they're ready to learn, invite them to come and join us. If they're not ready to learn, then you keep teaching them until they are. So I appreciate it, and I thank you for this opportunity to share what I know with you. And with that, if there's nothing else, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. See you tomorrow.